I opened the door to the house in silence. It was mid-afternoon on a Wednesday, and I shouldn't have been there. I had left early in the morning to solve some problems with the truck at Seu Raimundo's workshop, but the mechanic managed to speed up the work. The clutch that I thought would take all day was ready in 3 hours. I thought about calling Clarice, my wife, but I wanted to surprise her. Maybe even prepare lunch for the two of us like the ones we used to make at the beginning of our marriage. It had been a while since we spent an afternoon together, just us, without rushing, without cell phones, without distractions. But when I stepped into the room, I heard laughter coming from our room. My heart raced. It wasn't just any laugh. It was that intimate, complicit laugh that I knew well. The laugh of someone who is at ease, from those who don't expect to be interrupted, from someone who is doing something they shouldn't. I dropped my car keys on the table in the entrance. My backpack slipped off my shoulder and fell to the floor with a thud, but the laughter continued. They hadn't heard, or they didn't care. I climbed the stairs slowly, each step weighing me down like lead. My head started to spin. It can't be, I thought. It can't be what I'm imagining. But my body already knew. My stomach was already upset. My hands were shaking. My mouth was dry. I felt my own heart beating in my ear like a war drum. When I reached the bedroom door, I stopped. The door was ajar. I could hear her voice, and a man's voice. A voice I had known since I was born. I pushed the door slowly, and there, on my bed, in the room I paid for, on the mattress I bought with the sweat of my brow, was Clarice, lying down, with her hair spread out on the pillow. And next to her, naked from the waist up, with that naughty smile on his face, was my brother Junior. They looked at me. They didn't scream. They didn't jump out of bed in despair. They didn't try to cover themselves. It was worse. They looked at me as if I were an intruder, as if I were invading a space that wasn't mine, like I was the one in the wrong there. For a second, no one said anything. The silence was deafening. I couldn't move. My body was frozen. My mouth was dry. My chest hurt like someone had driven a stake into it. And then, Junior stood up, calmly, with that arrogance that I knew since I was a child, that attitude of someone who always thought they were better than everyone else, even though they had never achieved anything in life. He picked up the shirt thrown on the chair, put it on slowly, and looked at me with a sideways smile, a smile of victory. "Now you understand why she never loved you," he said, his voice calm, almost bored. Those words entered my chest like a hot knife. I didn't respond. I wasn't able to. My voice was gone. My throat was closed. I just stood there, standing there, looking at the two of them. Clarice looked away but said nothing. He didn't apologize. He didn't cry. He didn't try to explain. Nothing. She just sighed, as if she was tired of the whole situation. Junior walked past me, clapped me on the shoulder like we were old friends leaving a bar, and went downstairs. I heard the front door slam. The sound echoed through the empty house. For my empty house, I was alone with her. Clarice sighed again, pulled the sheet and covered her body. Then finally, he looked at me. His eyes were cold, empty. There was no guilt in that look. There was no remorse. Just tired. "I didn't want you to find out like this," she said, her voice low but firm. "But since you found out, we better talk." To talk? Did she want to talk? I could barely breathe. "My name is Marcos Oliveira. I'm 52 years old. I have been a truck driver for over 30 years. I started working when I was 17, together with my father, who was also a truck driver. He taught me everything. Taught me how to drive. He taught me how to change tires on the road. He taught me how to sleep on the truck seat when I didn't have money for a hotel. He taught me that a real man is a man who works, who takes care of his family, who doesn't run away from his responsibilities. I spent my entire life on the road, carrying goods from one corner of the country to another, to provide a dignified life for my family, to give her a dignified life. I've traveled all over Brazil. I've slept at a gas station. I've spent Christmas alone on the road. I've gone weeks without seeing my house, my bed, my family, everything, so that they would not be in need. All so they could have what I never had when I was a child. I met Clarice 18 years ago, at a barbecue at my cousin's house, there in Campinas. She was beautiful, talkative, full of energy. She wore a red dress that caught everyone's attention, but she looked at me, and I was delighted. At the time, I had just separated from the mother of my 2 children, Daniel and Fernanda, and I was trying to rebuild my life. I was alone, little, tired, a little lost. Clarice appeared like a light. It made me feel alive again. It made me believe that I could still be happy. We got married quickly. 6 months after the barbecue, we were already living together. She said she wanted a quiet life, a hard-working man, someone to take care of her, and I promised I would take care of it. I promised she would never be in need. I promised I would give her everything she deserved, and I did. I worked double time. Sometimes she would spend weeks away from home, traveling across the country just to make sure the bills were paid, that the refrigerator was full, that she had everything she needed. Clarice never worked. She said she had a migraine, that she couldn't handle pressure, that the strong sun made her dizzy, and I accepted. After all, I earned enough for both of them, and I thought that was what a husband should do: care, provide, protect. My children from my first marriage never accepted Clarice very well, especially Fernanda, who has always been more suspicious. She said that Clarice was a gold digger, that she was only with me for the money, but I didn't want to listen. I thought it was jealousy, something like a daughter who didn't want to see her father with another woman. I ended up moving away from them, and that's something that hurts me to this day. My brother, Junior, was always different from me. He's 5 years younger, but he's always had that smart, mischievous look. He never liked hard work. I never wanted to break a sweat. I preferred shortcuts. I kept changing jobs, borrowing money, making excuses. I'm going through a rough patch, bro. I just need a little help. I'll pay you later. Trust me, this time it will work. My parents always asked me to take care of him. Before my mother died, she made me promise that I would watch over Junior, that I wouldn't let him get lost in the world. And I promised. I complied. I got him a job more than once. I paid his debts that I didn't even know existed. I let him live in my house when he had no place to stay, when his ex-wife kicked him out of the house, and that's how he met Clarice. He lived with us for 3 months. About 4 years ago, he said he was saving money to rent a place, that he was helping a friend with a sales business. I believed. Clarice said he was a good person, that he helped her with things around the house while I was away. It said that he fixed the kitchen tap, that he changed the burnt-out light bulbs, that he went to the market with her. I thought it was great. I thought my brother had finally matured. I thought he was changing his life. What an idiot I was. I see a time under Clarice got up from the bed, picked up the robe that was hanging on the bathroom door and put it on. She calmly tied her belt, as if she were getting ready for breakfast. Then he went to the window, with his back to me, and crossed his arms. "It's been 3 years, Marcos," she said without turning around. His voice was strangely calm. 3 years. I felt my legs were wobbly. I held onto the door frame so I wouldn't fall. 3 years what? I managed to ask, my voice hoarse, almost a whisper. Me and Junior. We've been together for 3 years. My world collapsed again. This time it was worse, because it wasn't just the betrayal. It was time. It was premeditation. It was the coldness. 3 years. While I was on the road, breaking my back, sleeping in a truck cab, eating cold lunch, they were here, in my bed, at home, laughing at me. Why? Was all I could say. My voice was broken, pathetic. She finally turned around, and her gaze was empty. No remorse, no guilt, with nothing. Because you're never here, Marcos. You spend your whole life abroad, and when you're here, you're too tired to listen to me, to talk to me, to really look at me. Junior, he listens to me. He makes me laugh. He is present. He makes me feel alive. I wanted to scream. I wanted to break everything. I wanted to grab her by the shoulders and shake her until she understood what she had done to me. But my body didn't obey. I was paralyzed. "I work for you to live well," I managed to say with a trembling voice, almost shouting. "Everything you have I gave. That house, that car, that outfit you're wearing. All. I paid. Money isn't everything, Marcos," she replied coldly, as if she were explaining something obvious to a child. "And you never understood that." She grabbed her cell phone from the bedside table and unlocked the screen. The messages started scrolling, ignoring my presence, as if I weren't there anymore, as if I were already a ghost in my own house. "You can leave now," she said, without looking at me. "I want to be alone." Alone? Did she want to be alone in my house? But I couldn't fight. I was unable to impose authority. My body was in shock. My mind was off. I just turned around, I stayed, and went down the stairs. I took the car keys and left. I drove aimlessly, trying to process everything. My head was exploding. My vision was blurry. I could barely see the street. How had I not seen it? How was I so blind? So dumb? I stopped at a gas station on the side of the road. I bought a coffee that didn't even taste good. I sat at a small plastic table and stood there looking into space. People passed by, laughed, talked, and I felt invisible, transparent, dead inside. I called Junior. I needed to hear it from his mouth. I needed to understand. He answered on the third ring as if he had been waiting for my call. "What's up, bro?" he said in that calm, casual voice, as if nothing had happened, as if he hadn't just destroyed my life. "How could you do this to me?" I shouted, not caring who was around. "You are my brother. I've helped you your whole life. I gave you a house, food, money, and you do this to me." He laughed, a short, bitter laugh, full of contempt. "Brother?" he repeated sarcastically. "You were never my real brother, Marcos. You were always the perfect son, the hard worker, the one who did everything right. And I was always the bum, the useless one, the one who was never any good. But guess what? I won. I have the woman. I have the house. And you have nothing. It's my house. I shouted. For now, he replied, laughing again. For now, and he hung up. I looked at my cell phone, not understanding what it meant. For now? What did he mean by that? I stopped the car on the side of the road and cried. I cried like I hadn't cried since the day my father died. I cried for the betrayal, for the humiliation, for the feeling that my entire life had been a lie, for the feeling that I had worked, sweated, sacrificed myself for nothing. But deep within my despair, something began to bother me. A flea behind the ear, a thought that wouldn't leave me alone. Clarice had said 3 years, but Junior had only lived with us for 3 months 4 years ago. How did they keep seeing each other without me noticing anything? How were they? When? And why, suddenly, were they no longer hiding? Why did they now decide that I could know? Then a memory hit me like a punch in the gut. 3 months ago, Clarice had asked me to sign some papers. I was about to leave for a long trip. I was going to be away for almost 2 weeks, and she appeared in the garage with a folder in her hand. He said it was to renew the house insurance, that it was urgent, which needed to be signed that day. I was in a hurry, late, the truck was already started, and I signed without reading it properly. I barely looked at what was written. I just signed where she pointed, about 3-4 pages. She thanked me, kissed me on the cheek, and I left. What if those papers weren't about insurance? My heart raced again, but this time it wasn't pain, it was fear. A deep, visceral fear that squeezed my chest and made me break out in a cold sweat. I picked up my cell phone and called the office of my lawyer, Dr. Augusto, who had helped me with the previous divorce. He didn't answer. I left a message saying it was urgent, that I needed to talk to him as soon as possible. So I called my daughter, Fernanda. She answered on the second ring. Father? She said, surprised. We hadn't spoken for months. Daughter, I need your help, I said, my voice shaking. I think I made a mistake. What was really in those papers that Marcos signed without reading? Why did Junior say for now when Marcos said the house was his? And what are Clarice and Junior planning now that the betrayal has been discovered? Fernanda listened to me in silence. I told everything. The scene in the room, what Junior said, Clarice's coldness, the papers I signed 3 months ago. When I finished, she was quiet for a few seconds. I could hear her breathing on the other end of the line. Dad, I always knew, she said finally. Her voice was shaky, filled with suppressed anger. What do you mean you always knew? I asked, confused. I saw them together, Dad, 2 years ago. I had come to your house to take that cake I had made for you, remember? You were traveling. I rang the doorbell, no one answered, but the door was open. I went in and I saw them in the room, hugged, kissing. I ran away before they saw me. My heart sank. My own daughter had seen it and didn't tell me. Why didn't you tell me? I asked, feeling a new pain, a betrayal within a betrayal. Because I tried, Dad, she screamed, and I heard her start to cry. I tried to tell you, but you didn't want to listen. You said I was being dramatic, that I had never liked Clarice, that I was making things up. You chose to believe in him, and then I remembered. I remembered the time Fernanda had come to me nervous, saying she needed to talk, that he had something important to talk about. And I, tired from a 2-week trip, irritated by the truck's problems, had cut her off mid-sentence. Fernanda, don't start. I already know you don't like Clarice, but she's my wife. Respect that. She had remained silent, her eyes full of tears, and had gone away. And I never brought it up again. I'm sorry, daughter, was all I could say. I'm sorry. She sniffed on the other end of the line. What do you need, Dad? She asked, recovering her voice. I need to know what's in those papers I signed. I need your help to find out. I'm going there now. Send me the address where you are. Fernanda arrived in 40 minutes. She works as an administrative assistant in an accounting office, so she understands documents. We hugged in the gas station parking lot, and I cried again. I cried with shame, with regret, with pain. Calm down, Dad, she said, holding my face with both hands. We're going to find out what's going on, and we will resolve this. We got in her car and she drove to my house. Clarice wasn't there. Her car wasn't in the garage. Fernanda used the key she still had from when she was younger and we went inside. The house was silent. It felt strange, like it wasn't mine anymore, as if I were a visitor in a place that no longer belonged to me. Where do you keep the documents? Fernanda asked. In the office, in the closet. We went up to the small office that I rarely used. Fernanda opened the closet and started looking through the folders. Electricity bills, water bills, IPTU, house deeds, truck documents. And then she found it. A green folder with some papers folded inside. She opened it and started reading. Her face changed as she read. She turned pale, then red. Then she closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Dad, this isn't insurance renewal. What is it? I asked, my heart already racing. It's a power of attorney. You gave full power of attorney to Clarice. This means she can sell her house, sell her truck, use her bank accounts, everything, without needing your authorization. I felt my body freeze. Like this, I didn't sign that. You signed it, Dad. Here's your signature. Acknowledged by a notary. She showed me the pages, and there it was, my signature, in 3 different places. Recognized firm at Cartorio Sousa, in the city center, dated 3 months ago, exactly the day that Clarice had asked me to sign the insurance. They tricked me, I said, feeling my legs weaken. I sat in the office chair. They planned everything, from the beginning. Fernanda continued looking in the closet and found more papers. Bank statements, from my checking account. She looked and her face became even more serious. Dad, there are strange movements here, big withdrawals, transfers, for an account I don't know. She showed me. In the last 3 months, more than 40,000 reais had left my account, in withdrawals of 6,000 at a time. I hadn't made any of those withdrawals. I didn't even know this money had come out. She's robbing you, Dad, Fernanda said, her voice shaking with anger. She and Uncle Junior are stealing from you. The penny started to drop. Everything started to make sense. Clarice's coldness when I discovered the betrayal, Junior's arrogance, the phrase "for now" when I said the house was mine. They weren't hiding anymore, because they didn't need to hide anymore, because they had already secured what they wanted. They had already taken everything from me. I sat on the office floor and put my hands on my head. My entire life was falling apart. 30 years of work, 30 years of sweat, and they had taken everything, with a pen and a lie. We need to go to the police, Fernanda said, already taking out her cell phone. Wait, I said, holding her hand. Before going to the police, I need to understand something. How were they able to recognize my signature at the notary's office? I need to see if there's anything else. If there are more documents I don't know. Dad, we don't have time. They may be transferring more money now. Just a little more, daughter, please. She took a deep breath and agreed. We keep looking. And then at the bottom of a drawer I found something that made me freeze. A brown envelope, with my name written in hand. I opened it. Inside were photos, old photos, from when I was young, from the day of my first wedding, from when my children were little, photos that I thought were lost, photos that I had never shown to Clarice. Where did she get that from? Fernanda asked, looking at the photos. I don't know. These photos were in your grandmother's house. After she died, I lost track of them. And then I saw something else inside the envelope, a death certificate from my father, who had died 15 years ago. And along with the certificate, I had a copy of the deed to my mother's house, the house where I grew up, the house that had been sold after she died 8 years ago. Dad, why does Clarice have these documents? I didn't know, but a bad feeling started to take over me, a feeling that there was something much bigger than just a betrayal, something I hadn't yet understood. That's when we heard the sound of the gate opening, a car entering the garage. Fernanda and I looked at each other, terrified. She's back, Fernanda whispered. We heard the front door open, and then a voice. It wasn't just Clarice. There was someone else with her, Junior, and a third voice, male, which I didn't recognize. Are you sure he won't find out? The unknown voice asked. He already found out, Clarice replied in that cold voice. But it doesn't matter. It's all in my name. The house, the truck, the bill, he can't do anything. And his lawyer? Junior asked. Dr. Augusto? Clarice laughed. He won't help him, not after I talk to him tomorrow. Fernanda pulled my arm, telling me to remain silent. We hid behind the office door, which was ajar. We could hear everything. How long until we can sell? The third voice asked. 2 weeks, Clarice replied. I already have an interested buyer. Dr. Menezes offered 300,000 for the house, in cash. 300,000. My house was worth at least 500,000. She was going to sell it for 300 to close quickly, to disappear with the money before I could do anything. What if he tries to react? Junior asked. It won't help. I've already spoken to the delegate. He owes me a favor. If Marcos shows up there making a complaint, he'll push it with his belly. He will say that it is a civil case which he needs to resolve with a lawyer. By then we have sold everything and disappeared. I felt my blood boil. They had planned everything, every detail. Even the police chief was involved. And his son? The third voice asked. Daniel? Daniel is traveling. Don't come back anytime soon. And even if he comes back, he won't do anything. He barely speaks to his father. Fernanda squeezed my hand tightly. She was shaking with rage. And the daughter? Junior asked. That's a problem, Clarice admitted. Fernanda is smart, but she can't prove anything. The power of attorney is legal, signed and acknowledged. There's nothing to do. The third voice laughed, a cynical, evil laugh. You guys are brilliant. The poor guy has worked his whole life and will be left with nothing. He deserves it, Clarice said, coldly, for being stupid, for being naive, because he thought I would stay with him forever, because I think love exists. I heard Fernanda choke out a sob. I put my hand over her mouth so she wouldn't make any noise. Let's go up, Junior said. I want to get some documents that I left in the room. My heart raced. They were going up. They were going to find us. Fernanda looked at me, desperate. I looked around looking for a way out, but there wasn't. The office only had one door, and they were coming down the stairs. That's when the doorbell rang. The three stopped. Silence. "Who is it?" Clarice asked, irritated. "You'll see," Junior replied. We heard footsteps coming down, the door opening, and then a female voice. Tall, firm, authoritative. "Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Helena Moreira, lawyer. I'm looking for Mr. Marcos Oliveira. I received an anonymous report about irregularities in documents involving this residence, and I need to speak to him immediately." Fernanda and I looked at each other, confused. Who was this woman? Who had made a complaint? And then I heard Clarice stutter. I don't know anything. My husband is not there." "How strange," the lawyer said with an ironic tone. "Because his car is parked on the corner, and I have here with me a court order to seize documents related to a possible power of attorney fraud. Can I come in?" "Who is Dr. Helena Moreira? Who made the anonymous report? And what is really happening with the Marcos family inheritance documents that Clarice hid?" Clarice turned pale. Junior took a step back. The third person, who I hadn't seen yet, said nothing. "A court order?" Clarice repeated, trying to keep her voice steady. "There must be a mistake. My husband takes care of all the documents. Then it would be good for him to be present," the lawyer replied, entering the house without asking for permission. "Because this order authorizes me to enter and collect any documents related to properties, powers of attorney, and financial transactions carried out in the last 6 months. And if there is resistance, I can request police support." Fernanda pulled me by the arm. We went down the stairs slowly, in silence. Heat. When we appeared in the room, Clarice almost fell back in fright. Junior turned red with anger, and the third man, a guy in a gray suit, bald with gold glasses, looked me up and down with contempt. "Frames?" Clarice said with a trembling voice. "What are you doing here? At home?" I replied, feeling the anger rising. "Are you seriously asking me that?" The lawyer looked at me and extended her hand. "Mr. Marcos Oliveira, I'm Dr. Helena Moreira. I received an anonymous tip 2 hours ago about possible document fraud involving your property. I need to talk to you urgently." I shook her hand, still confused. "Who made the complaint?" "I can't reveal it, but the person who contacted me had very accurate information about irregular financial transactions and a fraudulent power of attorney." Clarice took a step forward, trying to regain control. "This is absurd. I'm his wife. I have the right to a power of attorney." "Yes," the lawyer agreed calmly, "as long as the holder knows exactly what he is signing." "Did you know, Mr. Marcos?" Fernanda answered for me, taking the papers out of her bag. "My father was deceived. They said it was an insurance renewal, but in fact it was a full power of attorney that gives Clarice the right to sell all of his assets without authorization, and she has already withdrawn more than 40,000 reais from his account." The man in the suit took a step forward. "I am Dr. Menezes, Mrs. Clarice's lawyer, and this accusation is slanderous. The power of attorney is legitimate, recognized by a notary, and any financial transactions were made within the legality of the marriage and partial community of property." "Partial communion?" I repeated, confused. "But we got married in total separation of assets. I required this in the contract." Dr. Menezes smiled, a cynical smile of someone who knows he won. "Do you have the contract to prove it?" I looked at Fernanda. She ran back to the office and came back with another folder. She opened it, looked for it, and turned pale. "Dad, the contract isn't here." "What do you mean?" I shouted. "I kept it in that folder. I remember." "Someone took it," Fernanda said, looking at Clarice with hatred. Clarice crossed her arms with a half-smile on her lips. "You must have lost it, Marcos. You lose everything. Always lost. That's why I take care of the important things." Dr. Helena took out her cell phone and made a call. "Carla, you need to pull up the marriage record of Mr. Marcos Oliveira and Mrs. Clarice Santos here in the system. Marriage held 18 years ago. Yes, I want to know the property regime. Can it be now? Thanks." We were all silent, waiting. My heart was beating wildly. Junior was leaning against the wall, arms crossed, looking at me with that evil smile. The lawyer's cell phone rang. She answered, listened for a few seconds, and then hung up. He looked at me. "Mr. Marcos, the record shows that your marriage was registered in partial community of property." I felt the ground disappear beneath my feet. But I asked for a total separation. I remember. I signed the prenup. If there was a contract, it should be registered together with the marriage certificate, the lawyer explained. But it's not, which means it either never existed or was tampered with in the registry office. Clarice laughed, a short, victorious laugh. "You trusted me, Marcos. You gave me the money to register the marriage, and I recorded it the way that was best for both of us. After all, marriage is about sharing, isn't it?" I couldn't believe it. From the beginning, from day one, she had deceived me. "You're a viper," Fernanda screamed, advancing towards Clarice. Junior stood in front, holding Fernanda by the arm. Calm down, niece. No violence here. Get your hands off me, Fernanda screamed, letting go. Dr. Helena clapped her hands, drawing attention. He arrives. Mr. Marcos, you need to take immediate action. Even with the partial communion regime, there are signs of abusive financial transactions and concealment of information. I suggest that you file a police report and request a judicial freeze on the assets until everything is clarified. Good luck with that, Dr. Menezes said, smiling. The delegate responsible for the region is a personal friend of the family. It won't register anything. My blood boiled. I turned to Clarice. Even the deputy? Did you even buy the delegate? She didn't respond. He just looked away. That was when Dr. Helena smiled. Delegate Carvalho, I presume? Yes, I figured he was involved. That's why I've already contacted the Civil Police Internal Affairs Department and sent a copy of the complaint directly to the Public Prosecutor's Office. The case will not pass him by. Clarice's face changed. The smile disappeared. Dr. Menezes swallowed hard. Who are you? Junior asked, looking at the lawyer suspiciously. I already introduced myself. Dr. Helena Moreira, specialist in financial crimes and family fraud. And, because ASO, daughter of a judge, which means I have access to resources that most people don't. Clarice looked at Dr. Menezes, desperate. He gave a discreet nod of his head as if to say, snap out of it. I have nothing to declare without the presence of my lawyer, Clarice said, trying to sound firm. Your lawyer is here, Fernanda pointed to Dr. Menezes. Or will he also run away when things get tough? Dr. Menezes cleared his throat. I represent Ms. Clarice in civil matters. Criminal matters are not my area. How convenient, I said, feeling the anger explode. Everyone runs away when the house collapses. Junior moved away from the wall and came towards me. Bro, relax. We can resolve this. You don't need to go that way. Solve? I shouted. You robbed my house. They stole my money. They betrayed me in my own bed, and you want me to relax? You've always been dramatic, he said dismissively. Think about it. You stay away your whole life. Clarice was alone. I took care of her. I deserved something for that. I took a step towards him, my fists clenched. Fernanda held me. It's not worth it, Dad. He's not worth it. Dr. Helena placed herself between us. Mr. Marcos, you have two options now. Either let this become a circus or we act intelligently. I suggest the second option. I took a deep breath, trying to control myself. What do I need to do? First, gather all the documents that are still in this house. Second, go to the bank tomorrow morning and block any movement. Third, file an action to annul the power of attorney due to defective consent. Fourth, request legal separation urgently. And how long will this take? I asked. Weeks, maybe months. But in the meantime, they won't be able to sell anything. Clarice turned to Dr. Menezes. And now, he sighed, now I suggest you look for another lawyer, because I'm not going to get involved in a lawsuit that could cost me my license. And he left. He simply took his folder and left, leaving Clarice and Junior alone. Clarice was visibly nervous. Junior started pacing from side to side, like a cornered animal. You won't be able to prove anything, Clarice said, her voice shaking. I have rights. I am your wife. You are a scammer, Fernanda spat, and he will pay for everything he did. That's when I remembered something. The documents we found in the closet, the old photos, my father's death certificate, the deed to my mother's house. Clarice, I said, turning to her, where did you get my family documents from? The old photos, the deed to my mother's house? She turned pale. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie, I shouted. I found it in the office. Documents that were with my mother when she died. How did you achieve this? Junior and Clarice looked at each other, and in that moment, I saw something in his eyes. It wasn't just arrogance. It was fear. Answer, Fernanda shouted. Dr. Helena approached, interested. What documents are these? Fernanda ran to the office and came back with the brown envelope. He handed it to the lawyer, who opened it and began to examine it. His face changed. She looked at me, then at Clarice, then at the documents again. Mr. Marcos, do you know how much your mother received from the sale of her house? It wasn't sold, I replied. She donated to a charity before she died. She didn't want us to fight over the inheritance. The lawyer shook her head slowly. It wasn't donated, Mr. Marcos. It was sold for 250,000 rees. And according to this deed here, the sale was made 8 years ago, 3 months before your mother's death, and the money was deposited into a joint account. Joint with whom? I asked, feeling my body go cold. She turned the document toward me and pointed to the names, Maria Aparecida Oliveira and Clarice Santos Oliveira, my mom and my wife. The world spun. I held on to the table so I wouldn't fall. But how? I never authorized this. My mother never told me anything. She had Alzheimer's, Dad, Fernanda said, her voice shaking. Do you remember? In recent months, she no longer recognized anyone. And then everything fell into place. Clarice had convinced my sick, confused mother to put her name on the bill. He had sold the house. He had kept the money, and he never told me. You stole my mother, I said, feeling tears run down my face. You stole from a sick woman who treated you like a daughter. Clarice didn't respond. He just lowered his head. Junior tried to leave through the door, but Dr. Helena blocked him. No one leaves here until the police arrive, because this isn't just marital fraud anymore. This is embezzlement of an incapable person, forgery of documents and embezzlement, and they will both answer for it. Junior pushed the lawyer and ran to the door, but when it opened, there were 2 police officers outside. Civil police, one of them said. We have a search and seizure warrant. Junior tried to run but was restrained. Clarice began to cry, desperate. Marcos, please, I can explain. I needed the money. I was going to tell you. When? I shouted. When you had already disappeared with everything. She fell to her knees, crying. But I didn't feel sorry. I just felt disgusted. The police officers entered, collected the documents, and took Clarice and Junior to the police station. Dr. Helena stayed with me and Fernanda, organizing everything. Who hired you? I asked her. Who made the complaint? She smiled. I already said I can't reveal it, but I can tell you one thing. It was someone who loves you. Someone who had been watching everything for a long time and decided to act when they saw that you were in danger. I looked at Fernanda, but she shook her head. It hadn't been her. And then, my cell phone rang. Unknown number. Answered. Father? It was the voice of my son, Daniel, the one I thought barely spoke to me. I'm going back to Brazil. We need to talk about Grandma, about Uncle Junior, and about something I discovered that you need to know. Or what did Daniel discover? Why was he silent this whole time? And what's the even bigger secret that's about to be revealed about Junior and Marcos's mother's death? Daniel arrived the next day. I hadn't seen him in almost 2 years. He had gone to work in Canada as an engineer, and our contact had been limited to short birthday and Christmas messages. But when he walked through the door of Fernanda's apartment, where I was temporarily staying, I saw that he had changed. He was thinner, more serious, with deep dark circles under his eyes. We hugged, a long, tight hug, the kind that says more than 1,000 words. I'm sorry, Dad, he said, his voice breaking. I'm sorry for being away. No need to apologize, I replied, holding his face. You're here now. That's what matters. Fernanda prepared a coffee, and the 3 of us sat at the table. Daniel opened a backpack and took out a notebook and a folder full of papers. Dad, I need to tell you something that will hurt a lot, he began, taking a deep breath. But you need to know, Grandma did not die of natural causes. I felt my heart stop. Like this? I suspected this 3 years ago, when she died. Death was too quick. She was sick, yes, but the doctors had said she had years to live, and then suddenly she went into cardiac arrest. I found it strange, but everyone said it was all in my head, that I was suffering too much. Daniel, what do you mean? Fernanda asked, pale. I did an investigation on my own. I paid a private detective to track down the last months of Grandma's life, who visited her in the hospital, who had access to her medications, everything. He opened his notebook and showed a series of photos. They were images from the hospital's security cameras, and in all of them, I saw the same person entering my mother's room, Junior. Uncle Junior went there almost every day, Daniel continued. But he never told me that. I never told you, Dad. He went hidden, and he was always alone with her. But what does that mean? I asked, feeling a tightness in my chest. Daniel pulled out another document, a toxicology report. I managed to exhume Grandma's body. It took almost 2 years to get judicial authorization, but I did it, and the result was this. He pointed to a line in the report. It was written, high presence of digoxin in the blood, incompatible with medical prescription, possible overdose. Digoxin? Fernanda asked. It's a medicine for the heart, Daniel explained. In normal doses it helps, but in high doses it can cause cardiac arrest. And Grandma didn't take this medicine. It wasn't in her prescription. I couldn't process it. My mother had been poisoned, and Junior was the only one who had access to it in the last few days. He killed my mother, I said, feeling the tears come down. My own brother killed my mother. To keep the inheritance, Daniel added. Him and Clarice, they sold Grandma's house, kept the money, and then killed her so no one would find out. Fernanda covered her mouth, crying. I just stood there, paralyzed, feeling a hatred I had never felt in my life. I handed all of this over to the public prosecutor's office, Daniel said. They are going to indict Uncle Junior for murder and Clarice as an accomplice. But I needed to tell you in person, Dad. You deserve to know the truth. I got up from the chair and went to the window. I looked down at the street, seeing people passing by, living their normal lives. And there I was, discovering that my family had turned into monsters. What do we do now? Fernanda asked. He was when my cell phone rang. It was Dr. Helena. Mr. Marcos, I need you to come to my office. We have news, and they are good. Dr. Helena's office was in the city center, in an old and elegant building. When we entered, she greeted us with a discreet smile. Next to her was a man of about 60, well-dressed with an imposing posture. "Mr. Marcos, are these your children?" she asked. "Yes, Daniel and Fernanda." "Perfect. I want to introduce Dr. Armando Coelho. He is a prosecutor and is leading the case against Clarice and Junior." I shook hands with the prosecutor, who looked me firmly in the eye. "Mr. Marcos, I'm sorry for what you went through, but I want you to know that we will get justice. We have more than enough evidence to convict both of them. Misappropriation, embezzlement, forgery of documents, and now, murder." "Homicide?" Dr. Helena asked, surprised. Daniel delivered the toxicology report. The lawyer and prosecutor read in silence, and their faces became more and more serious. "This changes everything," the prosecutor said. "This turns the case into something much bigger. I will request immediate preventive detention for Junior Oliveira." "And Clarice?" I asked. "She is already temporarily detained, but with this new evidence, she could be sentenced to more than 20 years in prison." 20 years. It seemed little for what she had done, but it was something. "Mr. Marcos," Dr. Helena said, sitting down at the table, "I have a proposal. A preliminary hearing will take place tomorrow in the family court. It is about the annulment of the power of attorney and the division of assets. Clarice will be there, Junior too, if we can get him, and I want you to confront them, publicly, in front of the judge, the lawyers, everyone." "Confront how?" I asked, still confused. "Telling your story, showing the evidence, exposing what they did. This case is already drawing attention from the press. There will be journalists there, and I want all of Brazil to know what they did to you." I looked at my children. Fernanda nodded, determined. Daniel placed his hand on my shoulder. "We will be with you, Father, always." The hearing was scheduled for 10 in the morning. When we arrived at the forum, there were at least 10 reporters at the door with cameras and microphones. The news had leaked. "Truck driver victim of scam by his own brother and wife," read the headlines. We entered through the side door, escorted by Dr. Helena. The hearing room was small with about 50 chairs. Clarice was already there, sitting next to a new lawyer I had never met. She looked at me when I entered, and quickly looked away. Junior hadn't arrived yet. The judge entered, a man of about 50, wearing glasses with a serious expression. "Hit the hammer. Hearing of the action for annulment of power of attorney and disputed divorce. Case number 4892-2025 is open. Let the parties identify each other." Dr. Helena stood up. Dr. Helena Moreira, representing the author, Mr. Marcos Oliveira. Clarice's lawyer stood up. Dr. Fabio Teixeira, representing the defendant, Mrs. Clarice Santos Oliveira. The judge leafed through the files and sighed. "Well, this case is taking on proportions that I didn't expect. There are serious criminal charges involved, but before we get into that, I'd like to hear the sides. Mr. Marcos, would you like to make a statement?" Dr. Helena encouraged me with a gesture. I got up, my legs shaking, and went to the microphone. "Your Honor, my name is Marcos Oliveira. I'm 52 years old. I've been a truck driver for 30 years. And I came here today to tell you how I was destroyed by the two people I trusted most in life." I looked at Clarice. She was looking down. "I worked my whole life. I spent Christmases away from home. I slept in a truck cabin. I ate cold lunchbox. Everything to give my family a dignified life. And the woman I loved, who I swore to protect, betrayed me with my own brother. For 3 years. In my bed. At home." Some people in the audience whispered. The judge banged the gavel, asking for silence. "But that wasn't all, Your Honor. She deceived me. She made me sign documents saying they were insurance renewals, but in reality it was a power of attorney for her to sell my assets. She stole more than 40,000 reais from my account. And worse, she took advantage of my mother, who was sick with Alzheimer's, and convinced her to put her name on the account. He sold my mother's house, and he kept the money." The room erupted in murmurs. The judge banged the gavel again. "Silence. Mr. Marcos, continue. And today I discovered that my brother, Junior Oliveira, poisoned my mother. He gave her an overdose of medicine to make her die faster, so that no one would discover the theft. And Clarice knew. She was an accomplice." Clarice stood up, screaming, "That's a lie. I didn't know about nothing." The judge banged the gavel hard. "Mrs. Clarice, sit down." Dr. Helena stood up and handed the toxicology report to the judge. "Your Honor, here is the proof. Exhumation report of the body of Mrs. Maria Aparecida Oliveira, mother of the author, digoxin overdose. And we have records of Mr. Junior Oliveira's frequent visits to the hospital, always alone, always in the days before his death." The judge read the document in silence. His face turned red with indignation. "This is very serious." That's when the door to the room opened. 2 police officers entered, bringing Junior in handcuffs. He was pale, with dark circles under his eyes, his clothes wrinkled. When he saw me, he looked away. The judge pointed at him. "Mr. Junior Oliveira, you are being accused of qualified homicide. In addition to embezzlement and embezzlement, do you have something to declare? Junior remained silent. His lawyer, who came in right behind, tried to speak, but the judge interrupted him. I don't want to hear technicalities now. I want to hear the truth. Mr. Junior, did you poison your mother? Junior took a deep breath, and then, to my surprise, he started laughing. A low, bitter, desperate laugh. Poison, he said. She was already dying. I just sped up the process. The room was in shock. Clarice began to cry, hiding her face in her hands. Why? I shouted, standing up. She was our mother. Why? Junior looked at me, and for the first time, I saw remorse in his eyes. Because I was tired, Marcos. Tired of being the failed brother, which never worked. I wanted to have what you had. I wanted to be respected. And when Clarice came to me saying she wanted to help me, I saw a chance to finally win. To win? I shouted. You killed our mother. You destroyed my life. And you call that winning? He lowered his head. I know I'm a monster. The judge banged the gavel, hard. He arrives. In view of the defendant's confession and the evidence presented, I order the immediate preventive detention of Mr. Junior Oliveira for qualified homicide, and I order the immediate annulment of any power of attorney or document signed by Mr. Marcos Oliveira in favor of Ms. Clarice. All assets returned to the author. Hearing closed. The police took Junior away. He looked at me one last time before leaving. I'm sorry, bro. I didn't respond. I just turned my back. Clarice tried to get closer, but Fernanda blocked her. Don't even think about going near my father. She was taken away too, crying, screaming that she was innocent, that she had been manipulated, but no one believed it. Nobody cared. We left the forum under the flash of cameras. Reporters shouted questions, but I didn't answer. I just hugged my children and cried. Dr. Helena placed her hand on my shoulder. It's over, Mr. Marcos. You won. But that afternoon, when I returned to Fernanda's apartment, I received a call. Private number. Answered. Frames? It was Clarice's voice. Muffled. Whispered. I need to see you. There's something you don't know. About Dr. Helena. About who actually hired her. And about your mother's money. Not everything was stolen. There is a part that is still hidden. And if you want to know where, you'll have to come to me. Alone. And she hung up. What does Clarice really know about Dr. Helena? Who actually hired her? And where is Marcos's mother's hidden money? Will it be a last trap or a desperate attempt at redemption? I looked at the cell phone in my hand, my heart racing. Clarice's voice still echoed in my head. There's one thing you don't know. About Dr. Helena. About who really hired her. Fernanda noticed my expression and approached. Dad, what happened? Who called? Clarice. I replied, still processing. She wants to see me. Alone. He said he has information about Dr. Helena and my mother's money. Daniel jumped up. It's a trap, Father. Obviously it's a trap. I know. I agreed. But what if it isn't? What if there really is something I need to know? Fernanda held my hand. Then we'll go together. The three. You're not going anywhere alone. I called Clarice's number back. She answered on the first ring, as if she had been waiting. I will, I said, but I'm not going alone. My children go with me. Silence on the other side. Then a sigh. All good. You can bring it, but only them. No lawyers, no police. I'm in a place where no one will find me. If you call authority, I will disappear, and you will never know the truth. Where are you? At So Manuel's place. The one that is close to the border with Santa Rita. You remember? I remembered. It was an abandoned place, an old property where my father used to take Junior and I when we were children. I hadn't been there for years. I'll be there in an hour, I said, and hung up. On the road. Even the site was made of dirt, full of holes. I took my old car, with Daniel in the passenger seat and Fernanda in the back. Nobody said much, only the noise of the engine and the road breaking the silence. When we arrived, the sun was already setting. The place was exactly as I remembered. Old house, peeling paint, tall grass, fallen fence. Clarice's car was parked out front. We left slowly. Fernanda held my hand. Careful, Father. I knocked on the door. Clarice opened it. She was different. No makeup, hair tied up, simple clothes. It seemed smaller, more fragile. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying. Come in, she said softly. We enter. The house was empty. It only had an old table and some chairs. Clarice sat down and told us to do the same. Thank you for coming, she began, looking at me. I know you had no obligation. I came for the truth, I said firmly. Not for you, she nodded, swallowing hard. Dr. Helena, she began. You think she appeared out of nowhere to help you, don't you? Someone hired her, I replied, but she wouldn't tell me who. Clarice looked at Daniel. It was him. We all looked at Daniel. He blushed but didn't deny it. It's true, he admitted, looking at me. It was me, Dad. I hired Dr. Helena 3 months ago. When I found out about Grandma's report, I knew you were in danger. I started investigating Clarice and Uncle Junior on my own. And when I realized they were about to take everything from you, I went to the best lawyer I knew. I used my savings to pay her. I felt my chest tighten. My son, who I thought was distant, had saved me. Why didn't you tell me? I asked, my voice breaking. Because you wouldn't believe me, Dad, he said with teary eyes. You never believed it when Fernanda and I tried to warn you about Clarice. You always defended her. So I decided to act silently, gather evidence, and only appear when I was sure you would listen to me. I got up and hugged my son. I hugged him tightly, crying. I'm sorry, son. I'm sorry for not listening to you sooner. It's okay, Dad. The important thing is that you are safe now. Clarice wiped the tears from her face and continued. About your mother's money, she said. It's true that I sold the house, and it's true that I kept part of the money, but I didn't spend it all. There's a part that I hid, 120,000 reais. It's in a savings account in the name of a person you would never suspect. Who? Fernanda asked, suspicious. In the name of Maria Aparecida herself, Clarice replied. The account is still active. I never closed. I just transferred Junior's money to another place, but I kept that part separate, because deep down, I knew that one day this would come to light, and I wanted to have something to give back. She took a sheet of paper from her bag and handed it to me. It was a bank statement. Savings account. Holder, Maria Aparecida Oliveira. Balance, 122,487 doors. Why are you telling me this? I asked, suspicious. What do you want in return? Clarice took a deep breath. I don't want anything, Marcos. I've already lost everything. I will be condemned. I'll spend years in prison. Junior too. My life is over. But I needed to tell you this because I became a monster, but I wasn't always like that. She started to cry. When I met you, I really liked you. You were kind, hardworking, honest. But over time, I became alone. You're always traveling. I always waiting. And Junior appeared, and he made me feel unimportant, alive. And little by little, we entered this spiral. First, it was just a case. Then it turned into greed. Then it became a crime. She covered her face with her hands. I have no excuse. What I did was unforgivable. But I wanted you to know that I'm sorry, in truth. And that money is yours. It's your family. It's the least I can do. I looked at that woman, the woman I had loved, the woman who had destroyed my life, and all I felt was pity. Clarice, I said calmly, you made choices, and now you will pay for them. I don't forgive you. I don't know if I'll ever make it, but I'll take that money, not for you, but for the memory of my mother. She nodded, crying. I understand. Fernanda took the paper from my hand and took a photo with her cell phone. We will confirm this at the bank tomorrow. If true, this money will be used to rebuild what you destroyed. Clarice got up, grabbed her car keys, and looked at me one last time. I'm going to turn myself in to the police now. I won't run away. I just wanted to have this conversation with you first, so you know that not everything was a lie. In the beginning, I really loved you. And she left. We heard her car start and drive away. We sat there in silence, processing everything. Do you believe her, Daddy? Fernanda asked. About love? I don't know, I replied. But about the money, we'll find out tomorrow. The next day we went to the bank, and it was true. The bill was there, in my mother's name, with 122,000 reais, money I didn't even know existed. With Dr. Helena's help, we were able to transfer the money to an account in my name. It was a part of what had been stolen. It wasn't everything, but it was something. It was a fresh start. Clarice kept her word. She gave herself up. She was sentenced to 15 years in prison for embezzlement and complicity in murder. Junior was sentenced to 25 years for qualified homicide and all other crimes. The sentence came quickly because he had confessed. I didn't go to the final trial. I didn't want to see. I didn't want to relive everything. I let Dr. Helena take care of everything. 6 months later, my life was different. I sold the house where I lived with Clarice. I could no longer go in there without feeling disgusted. With the money from the sale and the money recovered from my mother, I bought a small, simple but cozy apartment, close to my children. Daniel returned to Brazil for good. He said he had realized that family was more important than career. He got a good job here, and now we have lunch together every Sunday. Fernanda got married, and I had the honor of walking her down the aisle. I cried the entire wedding, but they were tears of happiness. I continued working as a truck driver, because that's what I knew how to do. That's what I liked. But now, I choose travel. I don't stay away for weeks anymore. I stay for a maximum of 5 days. Because I learned that being present is worth more than any money. I went to therapy, lots of therapy, because the betrayal had left deep marks. I learned to trust again, slowly, but I learned. And a year later I met Dona Irene, a widowed woman, 50 years old, retired teacher, who attended the same church as me. She had an infectious laugh and an affectionate way of speaking. We started talking after the services. Then they became cafes. Then they became dinners. And today, we're dating. She knows everything that happened, and he accepted me anyway, with my scars, with my fears, with my insecurities. Today, when I look back, it still hurts. I still feel angry. I still feel the pain of betrayal, but I also feel gratitude. Gratitude for having survived. Gratitude for my children, who never abandoned me. Gratitude for Dr. Helena, who fought for me. Thank you for discovering the truth before it was too late. I learned that life can turn upside down in a second, that the people we trust most can stab us in the back. But I also learned that there is always a way out. There is always justice. There is always a fresh start. I learned that family is not just blood. That's who stays. He's the one who fights for you. He's the one who picks you up when you fall. And I learned that in the end, what matters is not how much money you have or the house you live in or how many trips you've taken. What matters is whether you can look in the mirror and respect yourself, if you can sleep peacefully, if you can truly love and be loved. Junior and Clarice will spend years in prison, and I don't feel sorry. I feel sorry for my mother, who is no longer here to see justice being served. But I'm sure that, up there, she is at peace, because the truth came out, and the guilty ones paid. My name is Marcos Oliveira. I'm 52 years old. I'm a truck driver. I was betrayed, robbed, humiliated, and almost destroyed. But I survived. I won. And today, I am happy. If you are going through something similar, if someone betrayed you, robbed you, humiliated you, I want you to know one thing. Don't give up. Justice may take time, but it will come. The truth may hurt, but it frees. And life can start over again, as many times as necessary. Never let the evil of others destroy the goodness within you. And remember, you are worth more than any betrayal. You deserve to be truly loved. You deserve to be happy, because in the end, whoever wins is not whoever has the most money, or the most power, or the most cleverness. Those who win are those who have dignity. It's who has character. It's someone who doesn't give up on being a good person, even when the whole world tries to make you give up. And I chose not to give up, and you can make that choice too, always.